In prelims, we will be getting around 12 to 15 questions from the subject called economics. So, here comes the important role of NCERT. How to cover NCERT is one of the biggest question all aspirants will be having. So, here is a easy solution. First thing, read the NCERT. Understand it. Second step, extract important points and make a notes. Third point, practice mocks for NCERT. For more details, click on below link. Hello everyone. From today we are going to start with Economics NCERT series. We all know that economics is a subject where you can score around 30 marks maximum or around 20 marks minimum from prelims point of view. So our 10%, 10 to 15% of paper will be covered if you are thorough with economics subject. So what is the strategy for economics prelims? First is we have to cover all NCERT books related to economics. So I am taking out 9th class to 12th class. So that is the only strategy for NCERT. Later we have to go for one standard book that I will be discussing once we are done with the NCERT. And once you are done with both NCERT and standard book, we will start practicing some of the mock tests related to both NCERT and standard book. With that, we will be covering out all our preparation that is needed for prelims level of economics. With that, we will be able to answer around 12 to 15 questions from paper that is GS1 prelims paper, right? So that is a strategy. You no need to follow any other things, just follow NCERT and one standard book and then practice mocks. That is all makes you fetch that 15 to 12 questions on an average 10 questions. That means 20 to 30 marks will be in your hand if you are covering your economics. So with that intention, we are starting today 9th standard NCERT. The first chapter of that is with regard to economics, the story of village Palampur. So in our first step of NCERT reading, we are just going to read out as it is in the textbook. So that is first thing. First reading is thorough reading of NCERT. Even in this series, I will be reading out the text and will be trying to understand. Reading plus understanding. Second step, out of NCERT, we are going to extract the important point and make one more notes. Okay, that also we'll be discussing once we are done with the economics NCERT. Third step, taking out all important mock questions on these NCERTs. So important mocks. With that, we are able to cover complete NCERT holistically. That's the approach. First, reading and understanding. Second, extracting the important points and making short note. Third, practicing mock test for NCERT exclusively. This is the strategy for NCERT. First chapter from NCERT, that is 9th standard NCERT economics, is the story of village Palampur. So as our strategy is, first thing is reading and understanding NCERT books. Second step, extracting the important points and making note of it. Third step will be practicing mocks. As part of first step, we are starting first chapter of 9th standard economics, the story of village Palampur. Overview. The purpose of the story is to introduce some basic concepts relating to production, and this we do through a story of hypothetical village called Palampur. Okay, we are going to understand today about production. So this is a theme of this complete chapter. We'll continue. Farming is the main activity in Palampur, whereas several other activities such as small scale manufacturing, dairy, transport etc. are carried out on limited scale. These production activities need various types of resources: natural resources, man-made resources, and human effort, money, etc. So for these activities, we want certain resources that might be man-made, natural, money, or etc. As we read through the story of Palampur, we will learn how various resources combine to produce the desired goods and services in the village. So we are talking about production. For that, what are the resources required for producing those goods and services in the village? Okay, we'll see the introduction. Palampur is well connected with neighboring villages and towns. Raiganj, a big village, is 3 km from Palampur. Okay, an all-weather road connects the village to Raiganj. So road is there to connect Raiganj and Palampur. And further on to the nearest small town of Shahpur. So we have well-developed roads. Okay, that is a good road is what they mean. Then many kinds of transports are visible on this road, starting from bullock carts, tangas, bogies, that is wooden cart driven by bullocks, okay, buffaloes, loaded with jaggery and other commodities to motor vehicle like motorcycle, jeeps, tractors and trucks. There are many vehicles that are using those roads. Fine. This village has about 450 families belonging to several different castes. The 80 upper caste families own the majority of land in the village. So there are 450 families, different caste people are there. 80 upper caste families own majority of the land is what they are describing. They are describing how the village condition is. Their houses, some of them quite large, are made up of brick with the cement plastering. The SCs, Dalits, comprise 1/3 of the population and live in one corner of the village and in much smaller houses, some of which are of mud and straw. So now they are differentiating how the other caste people live in which kind of houses. Some of them live in cement based, some of them are mud based houses. Most of the houses have electric connections. Electricity powers all the tube wells in the fields and is used in various types of small businesses. Okay, Palampur has 2 primary schools. It even has schools and 1 high school. Even high school is there. There is primary health care center. So health care center is also there, run by the government. Primary health care center run by government, and 1 private dispensary where the sick are treated. So they have both private as well as government institutions. The description above shows that Palampur has fairly well developed system of roads, transportation, electricity, irrigation, schools and healthcare. That's what is the description of this village. Compare these facilities with those in your nearby village. You check out what are the facilities your village is having. That's the thing they are saying. Okay. The story of Palampur, an imaginary village, will take us through the different type of production activity in the village. In villages across India, farming is the main production activity. So we all know that farming is main production activity in most of the villages in India. The other production activities referred to as non-farm activities include small manufacturing, transport, shopkeeping, etc. We shall take a look at both this type of activities after learning few general things about production. Now we'll learn few things about production and then again we'll look back. Okay. So organization of production. The aim of production is to produce the goods and services that we want. That is the basic aim of production. Right? What do you mean by production? Producing goods and services which are in need. There are 4 requirements for production of goods and services. To produce anything like goods and services, what are the things we have needed? So first thing is land. We need land and other natural resources such as water, forest, minerals. These are the things we need. First thing. Second thing, see under land we can also mention water, forest, minerals. What will you get from the land? Water, forest, minerals, etc. Right. Second requirement is labor. That is people who will do the work. There is land, there is kind of water which is required. If there is no labor, who will work in the farm? So you want labor, second one. So some production activities require highly educated workers to perform the necessary task. In labor also we can say like 2 types, skilled labor, unskilled labor. Some works need skilled labor where they should be educated. Okay. Other activities require workers to perform the necessary workers who can do manual work. Each worker is providing the labor necessary for production. Okay. The third will be physical capital. That is the variety of input required at every stage during production. So that is variety of inputs. Variety of inputs required at every stage during the production is said to be physical capital. What are the items that come under this physical capital? Is it clear to us? Now we'll see physical capital. We include tools, machines, buildings. Tools and machines range from very simple tools such as farmer's plow to sophisticated machines such as the generators, turbines, computers, etc. which are capital, physical capitals which require in every variety stage of production, right? In different stage of or every stage of production. So we have seen example also that might be simple plow or high level computers as well. So even tools, machines, buildings can be used in production over many years and are called fixed capital. So if you say these tools, machines, buildings which are used for long years, many years, they are said to be fixed capitals. Okay. Raw materials and money in hand, that is one more under physical capital, that is raw material and money in hand. Production requires a variety of raw materials such as the yarn used by the weaver and the clay used by the potter. Also some money is required during production to make payments and buy other necessary items. Raw materials and money in hand are called working capital. So now you will be understanding what is working capital, what is physical capital. Physical capital also said to be fixed capital, right, which can be used for long term. Whereas money and then raw materials are working capital. Unlike tools, machines and buildings, these are used up in production. In production they will be used, consumed completely, right? So money is such and even raw material. Okay, this is one of the point you have to be noted. That is in capital we have 2 types, physical capital and working capital. There is a 4th requirement too. You will need knowledge and enterprise to be able to put together land, labor and physical capital and produce an output either to use yourself or to sell in market. This these days is called human capital. Human capital. We shall learn more about human capital in next chapter. So next chapter in depth we will talk about human capital. So that is enterprise, right? So knowledge and enterprise, that is human capital. In the picture, identify the land, labor and fixed capital used in the production. So what is land? Here we have the space they are using. Labor, people are there. They are skilled as well. And fixed capital, these machines are fixed capital. Right? So this is what they were asking. A factory with several laborers and machines. Every production is organized by combining land, labor, physical capital and human capital. Here particularly they are talking about physical capital, not a working capital. You should be knowing what is physical capital and working capital. But when we talk about components of production, we should be talking only on physical capital and human capital. or entrepreneurship, right? Physical capital and human capital, which are known as factors of production. This is important point. Throughout this chapter, we are focusing on factors of production. We learned 4 factors of production: land, labor, physical capital and human capital. As we read through the story of Palampur, we will learn more about the first 3 factors of production. For convenience, we will refer to physical capital as capital in this chapter. So whenever they are talking about capital, you should be memorizing physical capital, not the working capital. We are not talking about working capital here, okay? So, farming in Palampur, we'll understand a little more. Land is fixed. Yes, land is fixed. You can't extend the land or you can't multiply the land. Farming is the main production activity in Palampur. 75% of people who are working or dependent on farming for their livelihood. They could be farmers or farm laborers. They could be farmers or farm laborers. The well-being of these people is closely related to production on the farms. But remember that there is a basic constraint in rising farm production. What is that basic constraint? Land area under cultivation is practically fixed. Correct? No, land area is fixed. Since 1960, in Palampur, there has been no expansion in land area under cultivation. By then, some of the wastelands in the village had been converted to cultivable land. There exists no further scope to increase farm production by bringing new land under the cultivation. Okay, so there is land is fixed, even wasteland is converted to the cultivable land. The standard unit of measuring land in hectare is hectare. So standard unit of measuring land is hectare. You should be knowing this. It's a key one, even everybody will be knowing, but yeah, just memorize, that's all. Hectare. Though in the village you may find land area being discussed in local units such as Baiga, Gunta, etc. But usually it will be measured in hectare. Okay. 1 hectare equal to area of a square with one side measuring 100 meters. Now can you compare the area of one field with the area of your school ground? It's just a question. But you should be knowing it is measured in hectares. Second, is there a way one can grow more from the same land? So we are saying one point is fixed, that is land is fixed practically. I can't increase the land. Can I increase the production? Okay, that is the question now. We'll see now. In the kind of crops grown and facilities available, Palampur would resemble a village of western part of a state of Uttar Pradesh. So it is resembling to western part of Uttar Pradesh, it seems. Okay. All land is cultivated in Palampur. No land is left idle. During the rainy season, Kharif farmers grow jowar and bajra. So during Kharif, they grow jowar and bajra. Okay. These plants are used as cattle feed. These are also used for cattle feed. So those are both food and fodder, right? So it is followed by cultivation of potato between October and December. So now we are in October. This time they are cultivating potatoes. In the winter season, Rabi, fields are sown with wheat. So in winter, they will be sowing wheat, Rabi crop. So now barley is what crop? Kharif crop. Yeah. From the wheat produced, farmer keep enough wheat for the family's consumption and sell the surplus wheat at the market at Raiganj. A part of our land area is also devoted to sugarcane, which is harvested once every year. So some part is for sugarcane also. Sugarcane in its raw form or as jaggery is sold to trader in Shazpur. Okay. The main reason why farmers are able to grow 3 different crops in a year in Palampur is due to the well-developed system of irrigation. Why they are able to grow? See, sugarcane is a water-intense crop. Rabi crop, that is wheat. Okay, fine. But what about bajra and all? So they also require some kind of irrigation. So why we are able to grow multiple crops in a year is because there is good irrigation. electricity came early in Palampur, its major impact was to transform the system of irrigation. Persian wheel were till then used by farmers to draw water from the well and irrigate small fields. People saw that the electric run tube wells could irrigate much larger area of land more effectively. So electricity is also there, so they were able to use the tube wells. The first few tube wells were installed by the government. Soon, however, farmers started setting up private tube wells. As a result, by mid-1970s, the entire cultivated area of 200 hectares was irrigated. Okay. Not all villages in India have such high level of irrigation, of course. Apart from the riverine plains, coastal regions in our country are well irrigated. Yeah, coastal regions are well irrigated. In contrast, plateau regions such as Deccan Plateau have low level of irrigation. Now you can able to differentiate in India which part is more irrigated, which is not. Coastal region are more irrigated. Even riverine plains are irrigated, but this Deccan Plateau is not much irrigated. Okay. Of the total cultivated area in the country, a little less than 40% is irrigated even today. So even today it is less than 40% is what it is irrigated. In the remaining areas, farming is largely dependent on rainfall. So more than 50% of India's agriculture is dependent on rainfall only, apart from these irrigated areas. To grow more than one crop on a piece of land during the year is known as multiple cropping. So what is multiple cropping or multi-cropping? So in 1 year, more than one crop is grown, right, on a piece of land. It is the most common way of increasing production on a given piece of land. So to increase production of a land, what you can do? You can go for multiple cropping. All farmers in Palampur grow at least two main crops. Many are growing potato as a third crop in past 15 years. 15 or 20 years, yes. So this is about Palampur. So let us discuss, that is table 1.1 shows the land under cultivation in India in units of million hectares. Plot this on graph provided. What does the graph show? Discuss in the class. So this is what they are saying. You can plot the graph. So x-axis if we take the year, and if you take cultivated area in y-axis, we'll take from 150, 180, 200. So for every 20, if you take 160, 170, 180, 200 like that. So you can mark the point and then draw a graph, okay. So you have seen that one way of increasing production from a same land is by multiple cropping. The other way is to use modern farming methods. So other way is using modern farming method for higher yields. So yield is measured as crop produced on given piece of land during single season. So how much crop is produced per piece of land in a year or a single season. Okay. Till the mid-1960s, the seeds used in cultivation were traditional ones with relatively low yields. Traditional seeds needed less irrigation. Farmers used cow dung and other natural manure as fertilizers. So we were not using much manure, modern things. So we are using cow dung, natural manure fertilizers as fertilizer, okay. All these were readily available with the farmers who did not have to buy them. Yes. So the Green Revolution in late 1960s introduced the Indian farmer to cultivation of wheat and rice using high yielding varieties. So late 1960s we started using HYV seeds. Compared to the traditional seeds, the HYV seeds promised to produce much greater amounts of grain on a single plant. Now because we changed the seed quality, now we are able to get more yield as well. As a result, the same piece of land would now produce far larger quantities of food grains than was possible earlier. HYV seeds, however, needed plenty of water and also chemical fertilizers. But as we used in traditional seeds, we were using only cow dung and natural manure as fertilizer. Now it is not like that, because we are using HYV seeds. We want plenty of water first thing. Second thing, we are going for chemical fertilizers and pesticides to produce best results. Okay. Yeah. Higher yields were possible only from a combination of HYV seeds, irrigation, chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So it's a combination of HYV seeds, irrigation, chemical fertilizer and pesticides, etc. Farmers of Punjab, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh were the first to try out the modern farming method in India. So these three states were first: Punjab, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh. The farmers in these regions set up tube wells for irrigation and made use of HYV seeds, chemical fertilizers and pesticides in farming. Some of them bought farm machinery also, like tractors and threshers, which made plowing and harvesting faster. So fast is also there. They were rewarded with high yield of wheat. So they can see high yield of wheat. In Palampur, the yield of wheat grown from traditional varieties was 1300 kg per hectare. With HYV seeds, the yield went up to 3200 kg per hectare. See, from 1.3 to 3.2 kg per hectare it went. That is the yield increase. There was a large increase in the production of wheat. Farmers now had greater amounts of surplus wheat to sell in markets. Right. Yeah. Third one, if we see, will the land sustain? Now we are using this modern techniques, and one thing is using modern techniques, or one more thing, we are going for multiple cropping. So third we'll see, will the land sustain? Land being a natural resource, it is necessary to be careful in its use. Scientific reports indicate that the modern farming methods have overused the natural resource base. So there is a overuse now. In many areas, green revolution is associated with the loss of soil fertility due to increased use of chemical fertilizers, also continuous use of groundwater for tube well irrigation has led to the depletion of water table. Environmental resources like soil fertility and groundwater are built up over years. Once destroyed, it is very difficult to restore them. We must take care of the environment to ensure future development of agriculture. So we already seen with HYV seeds we need irrigation. For that we went for tube wells where we damage groundwater. And also for HYV seeds we wanted chemical fertilizers and pesticides which degraded the soil fertility. So these were all the side effects. Okay. After reading the following reports from newspaper, magazines, write letter to, okay, this and only we can leave. So this is not much important. Now we see chemical fertilizers provide minerals which dissolve in water and are immediately available to the plant, but this may not be retained in the soil for long. They may escape from the soil and pollute groundwater. So fertilizer using will also pollute groundwater, rivers and lakes. The term is eutrophication is one more term we used, right? Chemical fertilizers can also kill bacteria and other microorganisms in soil. So whichever essential bacteria, like we have different rhizobium, etc., right? Those will also get killed because of fertilizers, which are chemical fertilizers. This means sometime after their use, the soil will be less fertile than ever before. So according to the source, down to earth. The consumption of chemical fertilizer in Punjab is highest in the country. So which state consumes more fertilizer? Chemical fertilizer? Punjab. The continuous use of chemical fertilizers has led to degradation of soil health. Punjab farmers are now forced to use more and more chemical fertilizers and other input to achieve the same production level. Now they are increasing the quantity to achieve the similar level of results. This means more cost of cultivation is rising very fast. So according to Tribune Chandigarh, the source is Tribune Chandigarh. So in 1960s, Govind was a farmer with 2.25 hectares of largely unirrigated land. With the help of his three sons, Govind cultivated the land. Though they did not live very comfortably, the family managed to feed itself with a little bit of extra income from one buffalo that the family possessed. Some years after Govind's death, this land was divided among his three sons. Each one now has a plot of land that is only 0.75 hectares in size. Even with improved irrigation and modern farming methods, Govind's sons are not able to make a living from their land. They have looked for additional work during part of the year. Why this happens? Fragmentation of land is one of the biggest problem in India. To explain that, this story helps us. So how is land distributed between farmers of Palampur? So how it was there in case of Palampur people, if you see, you must have realized how important land is for farming. Yeah, we know that. Unfortunately, not all the people engaged in agriculture have sufficient land for cultivation. Of course, it is fragmented, right? In Palampur, about 1/3 of the 450 families are landless. So 1/3 of 450 were landless. That is 150 families, most of them Dalits, have no land for cultivation. Of the remaining families who own land, 240 families cultivate small plot of land less than 2 hectares in size. Cultivation of such plots doesn't bring adequate income to farmer family. So as we have seen here, you can see the large number of small plots scattered around the village in picture. See, you can see here, it is fragmented. Yes. These are cultivated by small farmers. On the other hand, more than half of area of village is covered by plots that are quite large in size. In Palampur, there are 60 families of medium and large farmers who cultivate more than 2 hectares of land. A few of large farmers have land extending over 10 hectares or more. So even there are big land farms is what they are saying. So that's how it was distributed. So if you see, marginal and small farmer, it is around 55%. Whereas medium and semi-medium large farmers only 15%. Okay. So we'll see source Pocket Book of Agriculture Statistics 2020 and State of India and Agriculture 2020, Department of Agriculture, Corporation and Farmer Welfare. From that this data has been collected. So now it has been transformed to like 15% of them have large farms or medium farms, but 85% it is fragmented land. That is one of the drawback. So last point, who will produce labor? So who will provide? It's provide, it's not produce. After land, labor is the next necessary factor for production. Farming requires a great deal of hard work. Small farmers along with their families cultivate their own field. Thus they produce the labor required for farming themselves. Medium and large farmers hire farm laborers to work in their fields. So it's a big land, they want workers, they hire. Farm laborers come either from landless families or families cultivating small plots of land. Unlike farmers, farm laborers do not have right over the crop grown in the land. They don't have any rights. Instead, they are paid wages by farmers for whom they work. Wages can be in cash or in kind. Kind in the sense, they will be sharing the crop, etc. Sometimes laborers get meals also. Wages vary widely from region to region, from crop to crop, from one farm activities to another. So there is also a wide variation in the duration of employment as well. A farm laborer might be employed on daily basis or for particular farm activity like harvesting or for the whole year. So it also depends. Dala is a landless farm laborer who works on daily wages in Palampur. This means he must regularly look for work. He has to work hard to get work. That is the problem here. The minimum wages for farm laborers set by the government is 300 per day in March 2019. So 300 per day. But Dala gets only 160 rupees. There is heavy competition for work among the farm laborers in Palampur because there are more workers. So people agree to work even for less wages. Dala complains about his situation to Ramkhali, who is another farm laborer. So both Dala and Ramkhali are among the poorest people in the village. So we'll see next. The capital needed in farming. Capital, physical capital is what we are talking. Physical capital, okay. You have already seen that modern farming methods require great deal of capital. So that the farmer now needs more money than before. Now we need more capital, right? Most small farmers have to borrow money to arrange for capital. Yes, have to borrow. They borrow from large farmers or the village money lenders or the traders who supply various inputs for cultivation. The rate of interest on such loan is very high. That's the problem here. They are put to great distress to repay the loan. Savita is a small farmer. She plans to cultivate wheat on her 1 hectare of land. Besides seeds, fertilizers and pesticides, she needs cash to buy water, repair her farm instrument. She estimates that the working capital itself would cost a minimum of 3,000 rupees. She doesn't have the money. So she decided to borrow from a Tejpal Singh, a large farmer. Tejpal Singh agrees to give Savita the loan at an interest rate of 24% for 4 months, which is very high interest rate. Savita also has to promise to work on his field as a farm laborer during the harvest season at rupees 100 per day. As you can tell, this wage is quite low, yes. Savita knows that she will have to work very hard to complete harvesting on her own field and then work as a farm laborer for Tejpal Singh. The harvest time is a very busy time. As mother of 3 children, she has to lot of household responsibilities also. Savita agrees to these tough conditions as she knows getting a loan is difficult for small farmers. So here you can see how difficult for small farmers to get the loan, and even if they get from informal sectors, how much difficulties or hardships they have to go through. So in contrast to the small farmers, the medium and large farmers have their own savings from the farming. They are thus able to arrange for capital needed. How do these farmers have their own savings is the question now. You shall find the answer. How they will have more savings, because more yield they'll get more export. They'll be selling more than just consuming. All these are the things. So let us discuss the story so far. We have read about 3 factors of production: land, labor, capital, one more human capital that we will be doing in next chapter, and how they are used in farming. Land, it is fragmented, that is one problem in India. And what are different factors? Irrigation, etc. Forest, labor, we want skilled or unskilled also sometimes. And capital, working capital and physical capital. We are mostly talking about physical capital here. It is about machinery, etc., computers, etc. So now among the 3 factors of production, we found that labor is the most abundant factor of production. So we have more labor in India. That's why they are taking even the low wages, but still they are going for work. There are many people who are willing to work as farm laborers in villages, whereas the opportunities of work are limited. They belong to either landless families or they are small farm holders. They are paid low wages and lead to difficult life. In contrast to labor is a scarce cultivation land area is dash. Moreover, even existing land is they're just giving fill in the blanks. So we don't need to much worry. So that's all about this chapter. And there is one more, sale of surplus farm products. So we'll understand this factor now. Let us suppose that the farmers have produced wheat on their lands using the three factors of production. The wheat is harvested and production is complete. Okay. What do the farmers do with this wheat? They retain part of wheat for the family consumption, of course, and sell the surplus wheat. Small farmers like Savita and Gobind's son have little surplus wheat because their total production is small, and from this a substantial share is kept for their own needs. So it is the medium and large farmers who supply wheat to the market, right? Because small farmers, first of all, they should be keeping for themselves for consumption. In picture 1.1, you can see the bullock's cart streaming into the market, each carrying loads of wheat. The traders at the market buy the wheat and sell it further to the shopkeeper and in the towns and cities. Yes. So Tajpal Singh, the large farmer, as a surplus, this one is not required. Yeah, we'll see. Tajpal Singh, the large farmer, as a surplus of 350 quintals of wheat from all his lands. He sells the surplus wheat at the Raiganj market and has good earnings. What does Tajpal Singh do with his earning? Last year, Tajpal Singh had put most of money in his bank account. Later, he used the savings for lending to farmers like Savita who were in need of loan. He also used the savings to arrange for working capital for next farming in the next season. This year, Tajpal Singh plans to use his earning to buy another tractor, and another tractor would increase his fixed capital, right? Fixed capital, which is physical capital. Like Tajpal Singh, other large and medium farmers sell the surplus farm products. A part of earning is saved and kept for buying capital for the next season. Thus, they are able to arrange for a capital for farming from their own savings. Some farmers might also use the savings to buy cattle, trucks, or set up shops. As we shall see, these constitute a capital for non-farm activities. So they are going to get double income later on, right? Non-farm activities in Palampur, if you see, these are non-farm activities, right? This trucks and shops and all. We'll see in depth about it. Non-farm activities. We have learnt about farming as the main production activity in Palampur. We shall now take a look at some of the non-farm production activities. Only 25% of people working in Palampur are engaged in activities other than agriculture. Dairy is one such non-farming activity. The other common activity. Dairy is common activity in many families of Palampur. People feed their buffaloes on various kinds of grass and jowar and bajra that grows during the rainy season. The milk is sold in Raiganj, the nearby large village. Two traders from Shahpur town have set up collection cum chilling centers at Raiganj, from where the milk is transported to far away towns and cities. One is dairy. Okay. So second is an example of small scale manufacturing in Palampur. Okay. At present, less than 50
People are engaged in manufacturing in Palampur. Unlike the manufacturing that takes place in a big factories in towns and cities, manufacturing in Palampur involves very simple production methods and are done on small scale. They are carried out mostly at home or in the fields with the help of family labor. Rarely are laborer hired. Okay. Michelin has purchased a mechanical sugarcane crushing machine run on electricity and has set it up on his field. Sugarcane crushing was earlier done with the help of a bullock, but people prefer to do it by machines these days. Michelin also buys sugarcane from other farmers and processes it into jaggery. The jaggery is then sold to traders at Shahpur. In the process, Michelin makes small profit. Karim has opened a computer class center in the village. In recent years, a large number of students have been attending college in Shahpur town. Karim found that number of students from a village are also attending computer classes in the towns. There were two women in the village who had a degree in computer application. He decided to employ them. He bought computers and set up the classes in the front room of their house overlooking the market. High school students have started attending them in good number, and he will also make a profit. So fourth, if you see, transport. Yeah, shopkeeper in Palampur, and then we'll see the transport. People involved in trade, exchange of goods are not many in Palampur. The traders of a Palampur are shopkeepers who buy various goods from a wholesale market in the cities and sell them in village. You will see small general stores in village selling a wide range of items like rice, wheat, sugar, tea, oil, biscuits, soap, toothpaste, batteries, etc. A few of families, those whose houses are close to the bus stand, have used a part of space to open small shops. They sell eatables also. Right, that is one. So we have seen computer also. Even transport. Fast developing sector. There are variety of vehicles on the road connecting Palampur to Raiganj. Rickshaw, Tongawalas, jeep, tractor, etc. And people driving traditional bullock carts and bogie are people in the transport services. They ferry people and goods from one place to another and in return get paid, right? The number of people involved in the transport have been or growing over last several years. Kishora is a farm laborer like other such laborers. Kishora found it difficult to meet his family needs from the wages that he received. A few years back, Kishora took a loan from the bank. This was under a government program which was giving cheap loan to poor landless households. Kishora bought a buffalo with this money. He now sells the buffalo's milk. Further, he has attached a wooden cart to his buffalo and uses it to transport various items. Once a week, he goes to the river Ganga to bring back clay for the potter. Or sometimes he goes to Shahpur with a load of jaggery or other commodities. Every month, he gets some work in transport. As a result, Kishora is able to earn more than what he used to do some years back. Additional income now. Okay. What is the Kishora's fixed capital? That cart, right? What do you think would be his working capital? The loan he bought, right? In how many production activities is Kishora involved? One is farm laborer, transportation, yeah, and milk. Yes. So summary, we can see summary once. We can roughly read out. So farming is main production activity in village. Over the years, there have been many important changes in the way farming is practiced. These have allowed the farmers to produce more crop from same amount of land. This is an important achievement. Since land is fixed and scarce, but in raising production, a great deal of pressure has been put on land and other natural resources. So pressure, because we were using fertilizers, etc. So the new ways of farming need less land but much more of capital. The medium and large farmers are able to use their own savings from their production to arrange for a capital during the next season. On the other hand, small farmers constitute about 80% of total farmers in India find it difficult to obtain the capital. So because of the small size of their plots, their production is not enough. The lack of surplus means that they are unable to obtain capital from their own savings and have to borrow. Besides the debt, many of the small farmers have to do additional work as farm laborers to feed themselves and their families. Labor being the most abundant factors of production, it would be ideal if new ways of farming used much more labor. Unfortunately, such a thing has not happened. The use of labor on farm is limited. The labor looking for opportunities is thus migrating to neighboring villages, towns and cities. Some labor has entered non-farm sector in the village. So at present, the non-farm sector in village is not very large. Out of every 100 workers in rural areas in India, only 24 are engaged in non-farm activities. Though there is a variety of non-farm activities in the village, we have only seen few examples. The number of people employed in each is quite small. In the future, one would like to see more non-farm production activities in the village. Unlike farming, non-farming activities require little land. People with some amount of capital can set up non-farm activities. How does one obtain this capital is a question. One can either use this own savings, but more often has to take loan. It is important that loan be available at low rate of interest, so that even people without savings can start some non-farm activity. Another thing which is essential for expansion of non-farm activity is to have markets where goods and services produced can be sold. Market is important. In Palampur, we saw the neighboring villages, towns and cities provide the market for milk, jaggery, wheat, etc. As more villages get connected to towns and cities through good roads, transport and telephone, it is possible that the opportunity for non-farm activities in village would increase in the coming years. This was the story of Palampur. Now we understood production factors. Under that, in depth we understood about three factors. What are those? Land, which is scarce. So either use a multiple cropping or modern technology. Modern technology, one such we used HYV seeds, there are impacts also. So then we have seen about labor. Labor are heavily available, so wages will be going down when the work is less compared to the labor ratio. Then we have seen about physical capital. Physical capital are the things we will be using for a long term in a production process, like machineries, etc. Then we have human capital or entrepreneurship, that we will be reading in depth in next chapter. Apart from that, we have also seen non-farm activities. Non-farm activities, example, dairy, transport, pottery, etc. These are some things, and small MSMEs, small manufacturing sectors also were there in this village. This is what we should be learning from the chapter. This is what you should be making note. Factor of production, what is working capital, what is physical capital, what is human capital, what are the factors of production. If you can able to grasp this much from this chapter, your work is done almost. So that's all for today. Have a good day.
Hello everyone. Today we'll start with the second chapter of 9th standard economics. People as resource. We were reading about factors of production. Under that we have noticed 4 factors. One is land, labor, capital, physical capital, and then we saw it's about entrepreneurship or human capital. So last chapter we studied about first 3 components. Now today in this chapter we'll be studying about the 4th component, that is people as resource or
how to convert them into human capital. That is the theme of the chapter. Let us get into the chapter. As usual, we'll read and understand in the first step. Second step, we'll go for extracting the important points. Okay. Overview. The chapter People as Resource is an effort to explain population as an asset for the economy rather than liability. So, here we are trying to explain population as an asset rather than liability. People are asset for us. Population becomes human capital when there is investment made in the form of education, training and medical care. So education, health and training if you give, human resource will become human capital. In fact, human capital is the stock of skill and productive knowledge embodied in them. So they represent, human capital represents skill and productive knowledge. People as resource is a way of referring to a country's working people in terms of their existing productive skills and abilities. So, whenever we talk people as resource, we are talking about their skill and abilities. Okay? Looking at the population from this productive aspect emphasizes its ability to contribute to the creation of gross national product. So, this will emphasize to look people into the contributor for gross national product, GDP or GNP. Here it is GNP they are talking about. Okay. Like other resources, population is also a resource. A human resource. It's a human resource. This is a positive side of a large population that is often overlooked when we look only at negative side. Considering only the problems of providing the population with food, education and access to health facilities. When the existing human resources is further developed by becoming more educated and healthy, we call it human capital formation. So converting human resource to human capital through education and health is possible. That is called as human capital formation. That adds to the productive power of the country, just like physical capital formation. As we have seen what is physical capital formation, that is machines, tractors, etc., right, for long term use. Similar to that, even we have human capital formation by providing them necessary health and education facilities. Investment in human capital through education, training, medical care yield a return just like investment in physical capital. This can be seen directly in the form of higher incomes earned because of higher productivity. So, even if you invest in physical capital, you will get return. Similarly, we will get return in terms of, when you invest in terms of human capital, how we will be earning because of higher productivity, higher income because of higher productivity, that will go into the tax and that will go into the investment further, into the savings, etc. So, because they'll earn income also because of higher productivity of the more educated or the better trained persons, as well as the higher productivity of a healthier people. So, that is all about it. So, India's Green Revolution is a dramatic example of how the input of a greater knowledge in the form of improved production technologies can rapidly increase the productivity of a scarce land resource. India's IT revolution is a striking instance of how the importance of human capital has come to acquire a higher position than that of material, plant and machinery. Human capital has higher importance compared to material, plants and machinery. That example you can see from India's IT revolution. Okay. So, what is human resource? Is it like land or labor? The person? Is it more than that? Is a question. What is human capital? Is it like rupee, paise or dollar? It is more than that. It is more than that. Okay, looking at the photograph, can you explain how a doctor, teacher, engineer and tailor are an asset to the economy. How they are asset? They are able to provide the service and they have their own skills. So hence they'll become human capital and also asset. Not only do the more educated and the healthier people gain through higher incomes, societies also gains in other indirect ways because the advantage of a more educated and healthier population spread to those who themselves were not directly educated or given health care. So it is like welfare of individual is constrained in welfare of the society. So if in vice versa, so if individual is getting becoming a human capital, he also spreads his knowledge to someone who is not educated. That's how he will be benefiting even the society. In fact, human capital is in one way superior to other resources like land and physical capital. Human resource is more than compared to physical or land. Okay, human resource can make use of land and capital. Land and capital cannot become useful on its own, right? Land and capital cannot by itself it is useful, but who should make use of it? Human. Once human is turned into human capital, you will be knowing how to use it for more productivity, right? For many decades in India, a large population has been considered a liability rather than an asset. This is a problem. But a large population need not be a burden for an economy. Large population should not be a burden, but it should be a pride moment because they are our asset. It can be turned into productive asset by investment in human capital. For example, by spending resources on education, health for all. So long-term impact will be there. That is positive impact when you invest in human. Training of industrial and agricultural workers in use of modern technology, useful scientific researches and so on. The two following cases illustrate how people can try to become more productive resource. So we'll see before that. Story of Sakal. There were two friends, Vilas and Sakal, living in the same village, Semapur. Sakal was a 12-year-old boy. His mother, Sheila, looked after domestic chores. His father, Bhutta Chowdhury, worked in an agricultural field. Sakal helped his mother in domestic chores. He also looked after his younger brother, Jitu, and sister Situ. His uncle Shyam had passed a matriculation examination but was sitting idle in the house as he had no job. Bhutta and Sheila were eager to teach Sakal. They forced him to join the village school, which he soon joined. He started studying and completed his higher secondary education or examination. His father persuaded him to continue his studies. He raised a loan for Sakal to study a vocational course in computers. Sakal was meritorious and interested in studies from the beginning. With great vigor and enthusiasm, he completed his course. After some time, he got a job in private firm. He even designed a new kind of software. His software helped him increase the sale of the firm. His boss acknowledged his service and rewarded him with a promotion. So you see how education can lead to one great asset. So story of Vilas, if you see, Vilas was an 11-year-old boy residing in the same village as Sakal. Vilas' father Mahesh was a fisherman. His father passed away when he was only 2 years old. His mother Geeta sold fish to earn money to feed the family. She bought fish from the landowner's pond and sold it in the nearby mandi. She could earn only rupees 150 a day by selling fish. Vilas became mother could not afford to take him to the doctor. She bought fish from the land owner's pond and sold in a nearby mandi. She could earn only 150 per day by selling fish. Vilas became a patient of arthritis. His mother could not afford to take him to a doctor. He could not go to school either. He was not interested in studies. He helped his mother in cooking and also looked after his younger brother Mohan. After some time, his mother fell sick and there was no one to look after her. There was no one in the family to support them. Vilas too was forced to sell fish in the same village. He, like his mother, earned only a meager income. Do you notice any difference between two friends? What are those? Yeah. So one person was able to get converted from human resources to human capital and earn more. Other person, because of circumstances, even based on his income or interest, he couldn't. That's the thing. So the other person remained in the same situation, whereas the first person was able to go out of the normal work of the family, right? So in the two case studies, we saw Sakal went to school and Vilas did not go. Sakal was physically strong and healthy. There was no need for him to visit the doctor frequently. Vilas was patient of arthritis. He lacked the means to visit doctor. That is one problem. Sakal acquired a degree in computer programming. Sakal found a job in private firm while Vilas continued with the same work as his mother. He earned a mere income like mother to support the family. In the case of Sakal, several years of education added to the quality of labor. Quality of labor is important. This enhances total productivity. So productivity increased and quality of labor also. Total productivity add to the growth of economy. This in turn pays an individual through salary or in some other form of his choice. In case of Vilas, there could not be any education or health care in the early part of his life. He spends his life selling fish like his mother. Henceforth, he draws the same salary of unskilled labor as mother did. Right? Investment in human resources via education and medical care can give high rates of return in future. It's a long-term investment, but it will give good productivity and quality of labor, right? This investment on people is same as investment in the land and the capital. A child too, with investment made on her education, health can yield a high return in future in the form of a higher earnings and greater contribution to the society. Educated parents are found to invest more heavily on the education of their child. This is because they have realized the importance of education for themselves. They are also conscious of proper nutrition and hygiene. They accordingly look after their children's need for education at school and good health. A virtuous cycle is thus created in this case, in contrast to vicious cycle may be created by disadvantaged parents. So, virtuous cycle, vicious cycle, who themselves uneducated and lacking in hygiene keep their children in a similar disadvantaged state. So this is a problem. Countries like Japan have invested in human resource. They did not have any natural resource. These countries are developed rich. They import the natural resource needed in their country. How did they become rich? Though they import, how did they become rich? They have invested in people, especially in the field of education and health. That's how, even if you don't have resource, no worries, you can become rich. Unless you are not wasting human resource, you should be investing in them in terms of education and health to develop them into human capital. These people have made efficient use of other resources like land and capital. Efficiency and the technology evolved by people have made these countries rich and developed. So economic activities by men and women. We'll see in human capital, if you see human, we mostly talk two, right? Women and men. Now we see about them. Like Vilas and Sakal, people have been engaged in Various activities. We saw that Vilas and sold fish and Sakal got a job in the firm. The various activities have been classified into three main sectors. There are three main sectors of activities. Sectors of economy is what we call. Three main, what are that? Primary, secondary, tertiary. Very important to note the difference also. Primary sector includes agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry, fishing, poultry, farming, mining and quarrying. Manufacturing include in the secondary sector. Manufacturing is secondary sector, whereas trade, transport, communication, banking, education, health, tourism, services, insurance, etc. included in tertiary sector. The activities in this sector result in the production of goods and services. These activities add value to the national income. These activities will add value to the national income. These activities are called economic activities. All these activities are called as economic activities because they have a value, monetary value, right? Economic activities have two parts. So in economic activities also we have two parts. Market activity and non-market activity. Important to note, economic activity which will add a value to national income have a two parts. What are those? Market. One is market activity, one more is non-market activities. So what do you mean by market activities? Market activities involves remuneration to anyone who performs. So it involves remuneration to anyone who performs, that is activity performed for pay or profit. It is pay or profit related remuneration. These include production of goods and services including government services. So these include production of this. Non-market activity, if you see, are the production for self-consumption. Non-market is for self-consumption. Market activities for producing in market to pay, to get the remuneration or the money or a profit. Whereas non-market activities for self-consumption. These can be for consumption and processing of a primary product and own account production of a fixed asset. Okay. So these can be consumption and processing of a primary product and own account production of fixed asset. Okay. So activity, no need of this. Due to historical and cultural reasons, there is a division of labor between men and women in the family. So before coming here, we have already studied about what? One thing is how human capital is important. How can we form human resources to human capital? And we have understood about sectors of economy, primary, secondary, tertiary sectors, and what are all the jobs comes under. So primary is like if you are working directly on the land, like farming, fishing, mining, quarrying, etc. So you are having direct link with the nature, that is primary sector. Whereas that primary sector, whatever products, resources you got, that you will be processing, that is in manufacture. Then if you are trading, doing some service where you are not producing goods exactly, but transporting or doing other things comes under servicing. So that we understood. Again, we understood two parts in what? So that is marketing and non-marketing activities in economic activities, right? So we understood that also. Now about men and women in economic activity. So women generally look after domestic chores and men work in fields like as cultural or historical reasons. Sakal's mother Sheila cooks food, cleans utensils, washes clothes, cleans the house and looks after her children. Sakal's father Bhuta cultivates the field, sells the produce in the market and earns money for the family. Sheila is not paid for the services delivered for upbringing the family. Bhuta earns money, which he spends on rearing his family. Women are not paid, that's the thing. For care work, it is not paid for their service delivered in family. The household work done by women is not recognized in national income. So household work is not recognized in national income. Geeta, mother of Vilas, earned an income by selling fish. Thus, women are paid for their work even they enter the labor market. Their earning like that of their male counterpart is determined on the basis of education and skill. Based on education and skill, even women will work. Okay, education helps individual to make better use of economic opportunities available before him. To make use of opportunities, education is important. Education and skill are the major determinants of earning of any individual in the market. A majority of women have mere education and low skill formation. Women are paid low compared to the men. So if you have lack of education, yes, most women work where job security is not there. So it is informal sectors they are working is what is the problem. Various activities relating to legal protection is merged. Employment in this sector is characterized by irregular and low income. In this sector, there is an absence of basic facilities like maternity leave, child care and other social security systems. So these are absent in informal sectors. However, women with a high education and skill and formation are paid at par with the men. So if you have education and skill formation, you are paid at par with the men. Among the organized sector, teaching and medicine attracts them most. So among formal or organized sector, most of the women are employed in teaching and medicine. Some women have entered administration and other services, including a job that needs high level of scientific and technological competence. Okay, yeah. Quality of population is the next heading. The quality of population depends upon the literacy rate. How can you determine quality of population? There are certain factors. One is literacy rate. Second is health of a person indicated by life expectancy and skill formation acquired by the people of the country. So one is literacy rate, skill acquired and life expectancy, that is health of a person, health literacy. That's how you can determine the quality of a people, health and literacy or the skill. The quality of the population ultimately decides the growth rate of the country. To determine growth rate of a country in population, what is important? One is health. Second one is skill development or literacy. Okay. Literate and healthy population are asset. So which kind of population is our asset? Literate and healthy. Healthy literate population is what we need. Education, now we'll see. Sakal's education in the initial years of his life bore him the fruits in the later years in terms of a good job and salary. We saw education was an important input for the growth of a Sakal. It opened new horizons for him, provided new aspirations and developed values of life. Not only for Sakal, education contributes towards the growth of society also. It enhances the national income, cultural richness and increases the efficiency of a governance. There is a provision made for providing universal access, retention and quality in elementary education with a special emphasis on girls. There is also an establishment of phase setting of schools like Navodaya, Vidyalaya in each district. Occasional streams have been developed to equip large number of high school students with the occupations related to knowledge and skills. The planned outlay on education was increased from rupees 151 crore in the first plan to 99,300 crore rupees in 2020-21. The expenditure on education as a percent of GDP rose to 0.64% in 1951-52 to 3.1% in 2019-20. And it has remained stagnant around 3% from past few years. Now it is around 3%, around approximately. The budgetary estimates as stated in the budget document of Union State Government, Reserve Bank of India, the expenditure on education was as a percentage of GDP has declined to 2.8% in 2020-21. The literacy rate have increased to 18%. So in 1951 to 85% in 2018. So 18% in 1951 literacy rate to 85% in 2018 is the improvement. Literacy is not only right, it is also needed if the citizens are to perform their duties and enjoy their right properly, even for duties. And it is right, even it is a duty to enjoy, to perform the duty, we want education. Literacy is needed. However, a vast difference is noticed across different sections of a population. Literacy among male is nearly 16.1% higher than female, and it is about 14.2% higher in urban areas as compared to rural areas. As per 2011 census, literacy rates varied from 94% in Kerala to 62% in Bihar. Total, if you see, it is around 85%. In that, highest in Kerala, that is 94%. Lowest we can see 62% in Bihar. Expanded over 7,78,842 lakh in 2019-20. Unfortunately, this huge expansion of schools has been diluted by poor quality of schooling and high dropout rates. So problem here is now poor quality. Quality has to be improved and high dropout rates. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is a significant step towards providing elementary education to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. So Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is focusing on 6 to 14 years education by 2010. It is a time-bound initiative of the central government in partnership with the state, the local government and the community for achieving the goal of the universalization of elementary education. Among with it, bridge courses and back to school camps, have been initiated to increase the enrollment in elementary education. Midday meal scheme has been implemented to encourage attendance and retention of children and improve their nutritional status. These policies could add to the literate population of India. So we have some other also like back to school camps, bridge courses, midday meals, all these things. The gross enrollment ratio. So we have seen dropout ratio is more. Now we will see about enrollment ratio in higher education in the age group of 18 to 23 years is 27% in 1920, which would be broadly in line with the world average. Approximately it is 27% for higher education, the gross enrollment ratio. The strategy focuses on increasing access, quality, adaptation of state-specific curriculum modification, occasionalization and networking on the use of information technology. There is also focus on distance education, convergence of formal, non-formal, distance and IT education institutions. Over past 60 years, there has been a significant growth in the number of university and institution of higher learning in specialized areas. Let us read the table to see the increase in the number of college and no need of as of now. Now we will see about health. Education we seen Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, midday meals, back to schools, and we are trying to improve the enrollment ratio which is around 20+%, right? Now we will see about health. Firm maximize profit. Do you think any firm would be induced to employ people who might not work efficiently as healthy workers because of ill health? Will they employ? No, right? The health of a person helps him to realize his, her potential and ability to fight illness. So, how much ability he has to fight against a illness is a health. He or she will not be able to maximize his or her output to the overall growth of the organization. Indeed, health is an indispensable basis for realizing one's well-being. So, for one's well-being, we should notice the health. Henceforth, improvement in the health status of the population has been the priority of a country. Our national policy too aims at improving the accessibility of a health care, family welfare and nutritional service with a special focus on underprivileged segment of a population. Over the last 5 decades, India has built a vast health infrastructure and has also developed the manpower required at primary, secondary and tertiary sector in government as well as in the private sector. Also, we are also taking good steps. These measures which have been adopted have increased the life expectancy over 67.2 years in 2021. Infant mortality rate has come down from 147 in 1951 to 28 in 2020. Infant mortality rate. Okay. Now, please comment below what is infant mortality rate. And one more is crude birth rate have dropped to 20.0 and death rate to 6 in 2020 within the same duration of time. Increase in life expectancy and the improvement in child care are useful in assessing the future progress of a country. Increase in longevity of life is an indicator of a good quality of life marked by self-confidence. Reduction in infant mortality involves the protection of children from infection, ensuring the nutrition of both mother and child care. So all this data is from National Health Profile 2021-22 and Human Development Report, UNDP, etc. So now we'll see about unemployment. Sakal's mother Sheila looked after the domestic chores, children and Sakal's mother Sheila looked after the domestic chores. Children helped her husband Bhuta in the field. Sakal's brother Jitu and sister Situ spend their time playing and roaming. Can you call Sheila or Jitu or Situ unemployed? If not, why? So can we call these are unemployed? We'll see. Unemployment is said to exist when people who are willing to work at the going wages cannot find job. So they are willing to but they are not able to get the job. They are said to be unemployed. Okay. Sheila is not interested in working outside her domestic domain. Jitu and Situ are too small to be counted in the workforce population. Neither Jitu, Situ or Sheila can be counted as unemployed. The workforce population includes the people from 15 to 59 years. Okay, this you should remember, 15 to 59 years. One of the key point. Sakal's brother and sister do not fall within this age group, so they cannot be called unemployed. Sakal's mother Sheila works for a family. She is not willing to work outside her domestic domain for payment. She too cannot be called unemployed. Sakal's grandparents, although not mentioned in the story, cannot be called unemployed because they might be not falling with the age group 15 to 59 years. In case of India, we have unemployment in rural and urban areas. However, the nature of unemployment differs in rural and urban areas. In case of rural areas, we see more of seasonal and disguised unemployment. So, urban areas have mostly educated unemployment. Seasonal unemployment happens when people are not able to find jobs during some months of the year because they are dependent on farming. Some months they will be having harvesting time, that time they will be having work. After harvesting certain period they have to wait, no much work. So that kind of work is called, unemployment is called as seasonal. Okay, there are certain busy season when sowing, harvesting, weeding and threshing is done. Certain months do not provide much work to the people dependent on agriculture. In case of discussed unemployment, people appear to be employed. They appear to be employed. Okay, they have agricultural plot where they find work. This usually happens among family members engaged in agricultural activity. The work requires the service of 5 people but engages 8 people. So 5 workers are enough, but 8 workers are working in the same work. So it is called as discussed unemployment. These three people also work in the same plot as the others. The contribution made by the three extra people does not add to the contribution made by the five people. If three people are removed, the productivity of a field is not declined. The productivity will be same. The field requires the service of five people and three extra people are discussed unemployed. In case of urban areas, educated unemployment has become a common phenomena. Many youth with matriculation, graduation and post-graduation degrees are not able to find a job. A study showed that unemployment of a graduate and postgraduate has increased faster than among matriculates. A paradoxical manpower situation is witnessed as surplus of manpower in certain categories coexist with shortage of manpower in others. There is unemployment among technically qualified persons on one hand, while there is dearth of technical skills required for economic growth. Unemployment leads to wastage of manpower. So manpower is wastage. People who are an asset for economy turn into liability. When there is no employment, they will turn into liability. There is a feeling of hopelessness and despair among the youth. People do not have enough money to support their family. Inability of educated people who are willing to work to find gainful employment implies a great social waste. Unemployment tends to increase economic overload also. It is economic overload also because they are unemployed, they are not giving in return, right? The dependence of the unemployment on the working population increases. The quality of life of an individual as well as of a society is adversely affected. When a family has a life on a bare subsistence level, there is a general decline in the health status and rising withdrawal from school system. Hence, unemployment has detrimental impact on the overall growth of an economy. Increase in unemployment is an indicator of depressed economy. If unemployment is increasing, that means economy is depressed. Depressed economy symbol. It also wastes the resource which could have been gainfully employed. If people cannot be used as a resource, they naturally appear as a liability to the economy. People has to be used as a resource, otherwise they'll become liability. So in case of India, statistically, the unemployment rate is low. A large number of people represented with low income and productivity are counted as employed. They appear to work throughout the year, but in terms of their potential and income, it is not adequate for them. The work that they are pursuing seems forced upon them. They may therefore want other work of their choice. Poor people cannot afford to sit idle. They tend to engage in any activity irrespective of its earning potential. Their earning keeps them on bare subsistence level. So these are some of the problems. So moreover, the employment structure is characterized by self-employment in the primary sector. So it is self-employment in primary sector. The whole family contributes in the field even though not everybody is really needed. So there is discussed unemployment in the agriculture sector, but the entire family shares what has been produced. This concept of sharing of work in the field and the produce reduces the hardship of unemployment in the rural sector. But this does not reduce the poverty of a family. So that might provide kind of employment, but it does not reduce poverty. Gradually, surplus labor from every household tend to migrate from a village to urban in search of job. Let us discuss about the employment scenarios in three sectors mentioned earlier. Agriculture is most labor-absorbing sector of economy. In recent years, there has been a decline in dependence of population on agriculture, partly because of discussed unemployment discussed earlier. Some of the surplus labor in agriculture has moved to their secondary or tertiary sector. In secondary sector, small scale manufacturing is most labor absorbing. Then comes MSME. What is that? Small scale manufacturing. Then in case of tertiary sector, various new services are appearing like biotechnology, information technology and so on. Let us read a story to know how people could become asset for the economy of a village. We'll see this story. Story of a village. There was a village inhabited by several families. Each family produced enough to feed its members. Each family met its needs by the members making their own clothes and teaching their own children. One of the families decided to send one of the sons to an agricultural college. The boy got his admission in nearby college of agriculture. After some time, he became qualified in agro-engineering and came back to the village. He proved to be a creative, that he could design an improved type of flour, which increased the yield of a wheat. Thus, a new job of agro-engineer was created and filled in the village. The family in the village sold surplus in nearby neighboring village. They earned good profit, which they shared among themselves. Inspired by this success, all the families after some time held a meeting in the village. They all wanted to have a better future for their children too. They requested the panchayat to open a school in the village. They assured that panchayat that they would all send their children to school. The panchayat, with the help of government, opened a school. A teacher was recruited from a nearby town. All the children of this village started going to school. After some time, one of the families gave training to his daughters in tailoring. She started stitching clothes for all the families of the village, for everyone now wanted to buy and wear well-tailored clothes. Thus, another new job, that of a tailor, was created. This had another positive effect. The time of the farmers in going for buying clothes was saved. As the farmers spent more time in the field, the yield of a farm went up. This was the beginning of prosperity. The farmers had more than what they could consume. Now they could sell what they produced to others who came to their village market. Over time, this village, which formerly had no job opportunity in the beginning, had many like teachers, tailor, agro-engineer and many more. This was a story of simple village where the rising level of human capital enabled it to evolve into a place rich with complex and modern economic activities. So this is all about this chapter, where we read about how to convert human into human capital, human resource into human capital, how to use human as a resource. If you are not using them, then it will become a liability. Working population is between 15 to 59. So in agriculture, we can see discussed unemployment. Also, we have seen educated unemployment in urban, in seasonal unemployment in agriculture again. So, and we have seen the importance of education, literacy, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan we have seen. And also we have seen the data related to dropout ratio, stunting ratio and all. In case of health, we have seen again how health is important for productivity improvement. So yeah, this is all about this factor, and that is human capital, and we're done with the chapter.
Welcome back to Read With Me series. Today we are going to deal with third chapter of Economics NCERT. The chapter name is Poverty as a Challenge. Overview. This chapter deals with one of the most difficult challenge faced by independent India, that is poverty. After discussing this multidimensional problem through example, the chapter discusses the way poverty is seen in social sciences, poverty trends in India. So poverty trends and the word are illustrated through the concept of poverty line. Causes of poverty as well as anti-poverty measures taken by the government are also discussed. The chapter tends with broadening the official concept of poverty into human poverty. So these are all the components that we are going to understand. In overall view, we are going to understand about poverty in depth. Okay. Introduction. In our daily life, we come across many people who we think are poor. They could be landless laborers in villages or people living in overcrowded jungles in cities. They could be daily wage workers at construction site or child workers in dhabas. They could also be beggars with children in tatters. We see poverty all around us. In fact, every fifth person in India is poor. Every fifth person. This means roughly 270 million or 27 crore people in India live in poverty 2011 and 12. According to 2011 and 12, 1 in every 5 members is poor. This also means that India has the largest single concentration of poor in the world. This illustrates the seriousness of a challenge. Okay, two types of cases of poverty. There are two cases. We'll see what are those. One is urban case. 33-year-old Ram Saran works as a daily wage labor in a wheat flour mill near Ranchi in Jharkhand. Okay, he manages to earn around rupees 1,500 a month when he finds employment, which is not often. The money is not enough to sustain his family of 6. That includes his wife, 4 children, children aged between 12 years to 6 months. So he has to send money home to his old parents who live in village near Ramghar. His father, a landless laborer, depends on Ram Saran and his brother who lives in Azhari Bhag for sustenance. Ram Saran lives in a one-room rented house in a crowded basti in the outskirts of a city. It's a temporary shack built of a bricks and clay tiles. His wife, Santa Devi, works as a part-time maid in a few houses and manages to earn around another rupees 800. They manage a mere meal of dal and rice twice a day, but there's never enough for all of them. His elder son works as a helper in a tea shop to supplement the family income and earns around rupees 300, while his 10 years old daughter takes care of the younger siblings. None of the children go to school. They have only 2 pairs of hand-me-down clothes each. New ones are bought only when the old ones only when old ones becomes unwearable. Shoes are a luxury. The younger kids are undernourished. They have no access to health care when they fall ill. So second case, if you see rural case. Laka Singh belongs to a small village near Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. His family doesn't own any land, so they do odd jobs for the big farmers. Work is erratic and so is income. At times they get paid rupees 50 for a hard day's work, but often it's in kind, like a few kilograms of wheat or a dal or even vegetable for tailing in the farm through the day. The family of 8 cannot always manage 2 square meals a day. Laka lives in Kacha hut on the outskirts of village. The women of a family spend the day chopping fodder and collecting firewood in the fields. His father, a TB patient, passed away 2 years ago due to lack of medication. His mother now suffers from the same disease and life is slowly ebbing away. Although the village was primary school, Laka never went there. He had to start earning when he was 10 years old. New clothes happen once in a few years. Even soap and oil are a luxury for the family. So these are the 2 cases. Study the above cases of poverty and discuss following issues. So one is landlessness, unemployment, size of families, Illiteracy. Unemployment we already discussed in last chapter. Just recall. Size of family. 8 members in the village. Illiteracy. He couldn't go to school. Poor health and malnutrition. Then child labor. Helplessness. These two typical cases illustrate many dimensions of poverty. They show that poverty means hunger and lack of shelter. It also is a situation in which parents are not able to send their children to schools, or situation where sick people cannot afford treatment. Poverty also means lack of clean water and sanitation facilities. It also means lack of regular job at a minimum decent level. Above all, it means living with a sense of hope, helplessness. Poor people are in a situation in which they are ill-treated at almost every place, in farms, factories, government offices, hospitals, railway stations, etc. Obviously, nobody would like to live in poverty. So, of course, we have seen food, clean water, sanitation, no clothing, shelter falls under poverty. One of the biggest challenge of independent India has been to bring millions of its people out of abject poverty. Mahatma Gandhi always insisted that India would be truly independent only when the poorest of its people become free of human suffering. So this is important. See, poverty as seen by social scientists, how they will see it as a question here. Since poverty has many facets, social sciences look at it through a variety of indicators. Usually the indicators used to relate to the level of income and consumption. But now poverty is looked through other social indicators like illiteracy level, lack of general resistance due to malnutrition, lack of access to health care, lack of job opportunities, lack of access to safe drinking water, sanitation, etc. So all these are also parameters. Analysis of poverty based on social exclusion and vulnerability is now becoming very common. It's becoming very common. That is social exclusion and vulnerability. So first we'll understand what is social exclusion. According to this concept, poverty must be seen in terms of a poor having to live only in a poor surrounding with other poor people, excluded from enjoying social equality. They are excluded from enjoying social equality of a better off people in better surrounding. Social exclusion can be both a cause as well as a consequence of a poverty. One cause is social exclusion for poverty, and also consequence is social exclusion for poverty. Okay, in the usual sense, broadly it is a process through which the individual or groups are excluded from a facilities, benefits and opportunities that others, their betters, enjoy. A typical example is working of the caste system in India, in which people belonging to certain caste are excluded from equal opportunities. Social exclusion thus may lead to but can cause more damage than having very low income. So then vulnerability, the term vulnerability to poverty is a measure which describes the greater probability of certain communities, say members of backward caste or individuals such as a widow or a physically handicapped person, of becoming or remaining poor in the coming years. So they are going to become the same thing, right? So that is vulnerable. Vulnerability is determined by the options available to different communities for finding an alternative living in terms of assets, education, health and job opportunities. Further, it is analyzed on the basis of greater risk these groups face at the time of natural disaster, earthquakes, tsunami, terrorism, etc. Additional analysis is made of their social and economic ability to handle these risks. In fact, vulnerability describes the greater probability of being more adversely affected than other people when bad time comes for everybody, whether a flood or an earthquake or a simply Yeah. In fact, vulnerability describes the greater probability of being more adversely affected than the other when bad comes to everyone, whether a flood or earthquake or simply a fall in a availability of a jobs. So, though it affects everyone, people who are vulnerable will be affected more. So, then comes the concept of poverty line. At the center of discussion on poverty is usually the concept of poverty line. A common method used to measure poverty is based on the income or consumption level. So there are two basic things, income or a consumption level. A person is considered poor if his or her income or consumption level falls below given minimum level necessary to fulfill the basic needs. What is necessary to satisfy the basic needs is different at different times and in different countries. Therefore, poverty line may vary from time and place. So, it will vary from time and place, okay? So, it's based on income and or consumption level. Each country uses an imaginary line that is considered appropriate for the existing level of development and its accepted minimum social norms. For example, a person not having a car in United States may be considered poor. In India, owning car is still considered a luxury. So, while determining the poverty line, in India, minimum level of food requirement, clothing, footwear, fuel, light, educational and medical requirement, etc. are determined for subsistence. These physical quantities are multiplied by their prices in rupee. The present formula for food requirement while estimating the poverty line is based on the desired calorie requirement. It is based on calorie requirement, okay, for food. Okay, food items such as cereals, pulses, vegetables, milk, oil, sugar, etc. together provide these needed calories. The calorie needs vary depending on age, sex, type of work that the person does. Okay, for food what we are considering calories. The accepted average calorie requirement in India is 2400 calories per person per day in rural areas, 2400 and 2100 calorie per person per day in urban areas. So since people living in rural areas engage themselves in more physical work, calories requirement in rural are considered to be higher than in the urban areas. Monetary expenditure for per capita needed for buying these calories requirement in terms of food grains etc. is revised periodically taking into consideration the rise of prices. So based on inflation we also change this, okay, the price also will be changed. On the basis of this calculation for year 2011-12, the poverty line for a person was fixed at rupees 816 per month and rural areas and 1000 rupees for urban areas despite less calories requirement. So though urban people require less calories, according to 2011 and 12 the amount required was 1000 rupees based on that price also, right? Higher amount for urban areas has been fixed because of high prices in many essential products in urban centers. In this way, in the year 2011 and 12, a family of 5 members living in a rural areas and earning less than about rupees 4080 per month will be below the poverty line. If 5 members in a family and earning less than 4080, they are below poverty line. A similar family in a urban areas could need minimum 5000. So here it is approximately 4000 in rural, 5000 in urban per month to meet their basic requirement. The poverty line is estimated periodically, normally every 5 years. So this line will be normally estimated every 5 years. So by conducting sample surveys, these surveys are carried out by National Sample Survey Organization. So which organization conducts the sample survey? National Sample Survey Organization. National Sample Survey Organization. However, for making comparison between developing countries, many international organizations like World Bank use a uniform standard for poverty line. For international comparison, World Bank is doing this. It does uniform comparison standard. There is a standard for poverty line. Minimum availability of equivalent of $1.90 per person per day. According to 2011 PPP, purchase power parity. Okay, how much it is? 1.90 per person. In terms of dollar, it is $1.90 per day. Now we see about poverty estimation. It is clear from table 3.1 there is a substantial decline in poverty ratio in India from about 45% in 1993-94 to 37.2% in 2005. The proportion of people below poverty line further came to 22%. So it is poverty line is number of people in poverty line is reducing, declining slowly. Okay, from this data we can understand. So what we are expecting, if the trend continues, people below poverty line may come down to less than 20% in upcoming few years. Although the percentage of people living under poverty declined in the earlier 2 decades, the number of poor declined from 407 million in 2005 to 270 million in 2011-12, with an average annual decline of 2.2 percentage points during 2004 and 5 to 2011 and 12. So you don't need to memorize everything. One thing you should be noting, that is it is declining. If it continues, it will be 20% moving forward. So that's how they are showing here poverty percentage. Okay. So now we will see more on vulnerable groups. The population of a proportion of a people below poverty line is also not same for all social groups and economic categories in India. It is not same for every group. Social groups which are most vulnerable to poverty are scheduled caste and scheduled tribe households. Similarly, among the economic groups, the most vulnerable groups are rural. So economically if you see rural. So in social if you see SC and STs, right? And the urban casual labor households. Graph 3.10 graph also shows, you can see scheduled tribe is more and then scheduled caste, and comes the average Indian poverty line. So casual labor force 34 and also casual labor non-farm in urban. So shows the percentage of poor people in all these groups. Okay, although the average for people below poverty line for all groups in India is 22.43 out of 100 people belong to scheduled tribe are not able to meet their basic needs. Similarly, 34% of casual workers in urban casual workers. So they are not like they are not long-term workers, they are casual workers, daily basis. Urban areas are below poverty line. About 34% of a casual workers labor forms in rural areas and 29% of scheduled caste are also poor. The double disadvantage of being a landless casual wage labor household in a socially disadvantaged social groups of the scheduled caste or the scheduled tribe population highlights the seriousness of the problem. The combination comes to the seriousness of the problem. Some recent studies have shown that except for a scheduled tribe households, all the other 3 groups, scheduled caste, rural agricultural laborers and urban casual laborers have seen a decline in poverty line. So it is reducing, but yeah, still has to be. Apart from these social groups, there is also inequality of income within a family. In poor families, all suffer, but some suffer more than others. In some cases, women, elderly people and female infants are denied equal asset resources. Among poor family also, someone who suffers more is different, like it might be women or infant or older people. So that's the concern. Now we'll see the story. A story of Sivaraman. Sivaraman lives in a small village near Karur town in Tamil Nadu. Karur is famous for handloom and powerloom fabrics. Karur. There are 100 families in the village. Shivaraman and Aryunta Thiyar, Clubber by caste now, works as an agricultural labor for rupees 160 per day. But that's only for 5 to 6 months in a year. At other times, he does odd jobs in the town. His wife, Sasikalam, too works with him. But she can rarely find work these days. And even if she does, she is paid rupees 100 per day for same work that Sivaraman does. There are 8 members in family. Sivaraman's 65-year-old widowed mother is ill and needs to be helped with her daily chores. He has a 25-year-old unmarried sister and 4 children aged between 1 year to 16 years. 3 of them are girls and the youngest is a son. None of the girls go to school. Buying books and other things for school going girls is a luxury for him and he can't afford it. Okay. Also, he has to get them married at some point of time, so he doesn't want to spend on their education now. His mother has lost interest in life and he is just waiting to die someday. His sister and elder daughter take care of households. Sivaraman plans to send his son to school when he comes of age. His unmarried sister does not get along with his wife. Sasikala finds her a burden, but Sivaraman can't find a suitable groom due to lack of money. Although the family has difficulty in arranging 2 meals a day, Sivaraman manages to buy milk once in a while, but only for his son. So if you observe, there are certain points to be observed. Observe some of the poor families around you, which social and economic groups they belong to. So some of these points you note. Interstate disparities are also there. Now we have seen about how it will be comparing internationally, that is by World Bank. And we have based on that PPP, right, $1.90 per day. And I've also seen India poverty line. And then now we will see interstate disparities. Poverty in India also has another aspect or dimension. The proportion of poor people is not same in every state. Although state level poverty has witnessed a secular decline from the level of early 70s. The success rate of reducing poverty varies from state to state. Recent estimates show while the all India head count ratio, what is head count ratio? That is what you should comment below. Head count ratio. That means how many people are there under below poverty line, okay? Was 21.9% in 2011-12. States like Madhya Pradesh, Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Odisha had above all India poverty level, as the graph 3.2 shows. Bihar and Odisha continue to be the 2 poorest states with a poverty ratio of 33.7 and 32.6% respectively. So Bihar is having 33.7% poverty ratio and where Odisha 32% approximately, where average you see it is 21%, right? Among with rural poverty, urban poverty is also high in Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh. In comparison, there has been a significant decline in poverty in Kerala, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, West Bengal. State traditionally succeeded in reducing poverty with the help of high agricultural growth rates. Kerala has focused more on human resource development. In West Bengal, land reform measures have helped in reducing poverty. So Kerala focused on education, West Bengal focused on land reforms. So poverty reduced.
In Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, public distribution of grains, food grains could have been responsible for the improvement. Here, food grains PDS worked well. Okay, in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. So, if you see global poverty scenario, the proportion of people in different countries living in extreme economic poverty, defined by the World Bank as living on less than $2.15 per day, has fallen from 16.27% in 2010 to 9.05%. So that is also reducing. Okay, although there has been a substantial reduction in global poverty, it is marked with great regional differences. Poverty declined substantially in China and Southeast Asian countries as a result of rapid economic growth and massive investment in human resource development. Number of poor in China has come down from 2.1% in 2014 to 1.2% in 2015 to 0.1% in 2020. In the countries of South Asia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Afghanistan, Maldives, so South Asia, the decline has also been rapid, that is 12.8% in 2017 to 10.9% in 2021. With decline in the percentage of poor, the number of poor has also declined significantly from 233 million in 2017 to 207 million in 2021. Because of different poverty line definition, poverty in India is also shown higher than the national estimates. So recently UNDP has also released, right? So the report, hunger report. So in that also India is ranking low, but because they are using different poverty line definition, we have to look into the different reports. So in sub-Saharan Africa, poverty in fact declined from 36.6% in 2017 to 35.4% in 2019. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the ratio of poverty has increased from 4.4% in 2017 to 4.6%, where Caribbean and Latin America. So, poverty has also resurfaced at 3% in 2000 in some of the former socialist countries like Russia, where officially it was non-existent earlier. So it is resurfaced also in Russia, and it is increased in Caribbean and Latin America. It is reduced in China and South Asia. Yes. Table 3.2 shows the proportion of people living under poverty in different countries as defined by the International Poverty Line. So this we can look into recent report than going through this. Okay. So if you see Latin America and Caribbean, it is increased now. Yeah. So now we see the causes of poverty. Causes of poverty. There were a number of causes for widespread poverty in India. One historical reason is low level of economic development under the British colonial administration. So low level of economic development. The policies of colonial government ruined traditional handicraft. So traditional handicraft got ruined and discouraged development in industries like textile. Handicraft anyway vanished and textile also discouraged. The low rate of growth persisted until the 1980s. So this resulted in less job opportunity and low growth rate of income. This was accompanied by high growth rate of population. So population increased and employment rate fallen on in colonial era of British. So the two combined to make a growth rate of a per capita income very low. So employment and population are very important keys. The failure at both the fronts, promotion of economic growth and population control, perpetuated the cycle of poverty. Yes.
So with the spread of irrigation and the green revolution, many job opportunities were created in agricultural sectors. So green revolution, it came into rescue us, right? But the efforts were limited to some parts of India. So it was limited to certain parts like Punjab, Haryana and Western UP. The industries both in the public and private sector did provide some jobs, but these were not enough to absorb all the job seekers. Unable to find proper job in cities, many people started working as rickshaw pullers, vendors, construction workers, domestic servants, etc. With irregular small income, these people could not afford expensive housing. They started living in slums on the outskirts of the cities, and problem of poverty, largely a rural phenomena, also became feature of urban sector slums development because they couldn't afford, because industries couldn't absorb the laborers, right? Another feature of high poverty rates has been the huge income inequality. So income inequality is one of the huge problem. So okay, one of the major reason for this is the unequal distribution of land and other resources. Despite many policies, we not been able to tackle the issue in a meaningful manner. Major policy initiatives like land reforms, which aimed at redistribution of assets in rural areas, have not been implemented properly and effectively by most of the state governments. Since lack of land resources have been one of the major causes of poverty in India, proper implementation of policy could have improved the life of millions of rurals, but that didn't happen. Okay. Many other socio-cultural and economic factors also are responsible for poverty. So not only this, even others also are there. In order to fulfill social obligations and observe religious ceremonies, people in India, including the very poor, spend a lot of money. Small farmers need money to buy agricultural input like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, etc. Since poor people hardly have any savings, they borrow. Unable to repay because of poverty, they become victims of indebtedness. So, the high level of indebtedness is both the cause and effect of, again, poverty. So, we will see now anti-poverty measures. Removal of poverty has been one of the major objectives of Indian developmental strategy. The current anti-poverty strategy of government is based broadly on two planks: promotion of economic growth, target anti-poverty programs. One is targeting this targeted anti-poverty program. One more is economic growth. Over a period of 30 years lasting up to the early 80s, there was little per capita income growth and not much reduction in poverty. Official poverty estimates, which were about 45% in early 1950s, remained the same even in the early 80s. Since the 80s, India's economic growth has been one of the fastest in the world. The growth rate jumped from average of about 3.5% of a year in the 1970s to 6% in 1980s and 1990s. The higher growth rate have helped significantly in the reduction of poverty. Therefore, it is becoming clear that there is a strong link between economic growth and poverty reduction. Okay, you should understand this. Economic growth widens opportunities and provides the resources needed to invest in human development. Because economic growth will provide opportunity for providing resources. Yes. This also encourages people to send their children, including the girl child, to schools in hope of getting better economic returns from investing in education. However, the poor may not be able to make direct advantage from the opportunities created by economic growth. Moreover, growth in the agriculture sector is much below expectation. This has a direct bearing on poverty, as a large number of poor people live in villages and are dependent on agriculture. In these circumstances, there is a clear need for targeted anti-poverty program. Although there are so many schemes which are formulated to affect poverty directly or indirectly, some of them are worth mentioning. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Manrega Act 2005 aimed to provide 100 days of wage employment to every household to ensure livelihood security in rural areas. It also aimed at sustainable development to address the cause of drought, deforestation and soil erosion. It is also for sustainable development. So then we have 1/3 of a proposed jobs have been reserved for women. 1/3 is reserved for women. The scheme provided employment to 220 crore person days of employment to 4.78 crore households. The share of SC/ST women person days in the scheme are 23%, 17% and 53% respectively. SC/ST and women 53%. The average wage has increased from 65 in 2006-7 to 132 in 2013 and 14. Recently in March 2018, wage rate for unskilled manual workers has been revised. State-wise, the range of wage rate for different states and union territories lies in between 281 per day in like for Haryana, workers in Haryana, to 168 per day for workers in Bihar and Jharkhand. Prime Minister Rozgar Yojana. Second one is Rozgar Yojana. Important. It's another scheme which was started in 1993. Okay. The aim of a program is to create self-employment opportunities. Rozgar Yojana. It's a Rozgar Yojana. Self-employment opportunities. So for educated unemployment youth in rural areas. Educated unemployed youth in rural areas and small towns. They are helped in setting up small business and industries. Rural Employment Generation Program is the third one. Rural Employment Generation Program was launched in 1995. The aim of the program is to create self-employment opportunities in rural areas and small towns. A target for creating 25 lakh new jobs has been set for the program under the 10th 5-year plan. So that's under Rural Employment Generation Program. Okay, next we have Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana in 1999. The program aimed to bringing the assisted poor families above the poverty line by organizing them into self-help groups. The concept of self-help groups through a mix of bank credit and government subsidies. Mix of bank credit and government subsidies under the Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana. It's a Grama plus Udaya. Gramodaya Yojana. Launched in 2000. Additional central assistance is given to the state for basic services such as primary health, primary education, rural shelters, rural drinking water, rural electrification. Another important scheme is Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Very important. Antyodaya Anna Yojana, about which you will read more in next chapter. Next chapter will be reading more about Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Now we have seen one is what? Manrega. Second one is Rozgar Yojana, Swarojgar Yojana, Gramin Employment, Rural Employment Generation Program. Now we have seen Antyodaya Anna Yojana. The results of these programs have been mixed. One of the major reasons for less effectiveness is lack of proper implementation. So implementation problems are there and right targeting is not there. Poor targeting and lack of implementation. Moreover, there has been a lot of overlapping of schemes, and overlapping of schemes also is a problem. Okay. Despite good intention, the benefits of these schemes are not fully reached to the deserving people. Therefore, the major emphasis on recent years is on proper monitoring of all poverty alleviation programs. So, proper monitoring, implementation and targeting is needed. What are the 3 points? Monitoring, first targeting, then monitoring, and implementation. Okay, you can remember TMI or TIM. What is that? Targeting, implementation and monitoring. Challenges ahead. So poverty has certainly declined in India, but despite the progress, poverty reduction remains India's most compelling challenge. Wide disparities in poverty are visible between rural and urban areas and among different states. We have seen that. So certain social and economic groups are more vulnerable to poverty. Poverty reduction is expected to make better progress in the next 10 to 15 years. This would be possible mainly due to higher economic growth, increasing stress on universal free elementary education, declining population growth, increasing empowerment of women and the economically weaker section of a society. The official definition of poverty, however, captures only a limited part of what poverty actually means to people. It is about minimum subsistence level living rather than a reasonable level of living. Many scholars advocate that we must broaden the concept into human poverty. A large number of people may have been able to feed themselves, but do they have education or shelter or healthcare or a job security or a self-confidence? Are they free from caste and gender discrimination? Is the practice of child labor still common? Worldwide experience shows that with development, the definition of what constitutes poverty also changes. Eradication of poverty is always a moving target. Hopefully, we will be able to provide the minimum necessary in terms of only income to all people by end of next decade. But the target will move on for many of the bigger challenges that still remain. Providing healthcare, education and job security for all, and achieving gender equality and dignity for the poor, these will be even bigger tasks. That's all for today. We'll catch up tomorrow. Everyone, welcome back to Read With Me series. Today we are going to read about Chapter 4, Economics, NCERT of 9th Standard. The chapter name is Food Security in India. In third chapter we have seen the reference of Antyodaya Anna Yojana. In depth to it we will be reading in this chapter. Okay. Overview. Food security means availability, accessibility and affordability of food all people at all time. So okay, it is like 3 A's. A3's. Okay. Availability, accessibility and affordability is a food security for all at all times. The poor households are more vulnerable to food insecurity. Whenever there is a problem of production or distribution of food crops, food security depends on the public distribution system. So it depends on public distribution system, PDS. And government vigilance and action at times. So also along with PDS, even government vigilance and action at times when the security is threatened. What is food security? Food security, food is essential for living as for air is for breathing. So it is very essential, similar to air. But food security means something more than getting 2 square meals. Food security has following dimensions. Availability. So, availability of a food means food production within the country, food imports and the previous year's stock stored in government granaries. Okay. Then accessibility means food is within reach of every person. Affordability implies that an individual has enough money to buy sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet one's dietary needs. Thus, food security is ensured in a country only if enough food is available for all the persons. All persons have capacity to buy food of acceptable quality and there is no barrier on the access to food. Why food security? The poorest section of the society might be food insecure, most of the times, while persons above the poverty line might have also be food insecure when the country faces a national disaster calamity like earthquake, drought, flood, tsunami, widespread failures of crop causing famines, etc. How is food security affected during a calamity? Due to a natural calamity, say drought, total production of a food grain decreases. It creates a shortage of food in the affected areas. Due to shortage of food, the prices goes up. At the higher prices, some people cannot afford to buy food. If such calamity happens in very widespread area or is stretched over a long time period, it may cause situation of starvation. A massive starvation might take a turn to famine. So, a famine is characterized by widespread death due to starvation. So, widespread death due to starvation and epidemic caused by forced use of contaminated water, and it is forced use of contaminated water or decaying food and loss of body resistance due to weakening from starvation. The most devastating famine that occurred in India was famine of Bengal, 1943. This famine killed 30 lakh people in province of Bengal. Yes, in 1943. So if you see this box, in the 1970s, food security was understood as the availability of at all times of adequate supply of basic foodstuffs. United Nations 1975. Amartya Sen added a new dimension to food security and emphasized on access to food through what he called entitlements, a combination of what one can produce, exchange in the market along with state or other socially provided supplies. Accordingly, there has been substantial shift in the understanding of food security. In 1995, World Food Summit declared food security at the individual, household, regional, national and global level exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. FAO 1996. The declaration further recognizes that poverty eradication is essential to improve access to food. Do you know who were affected the most by the famine? The agricultural laborers, fishermen, transport workers and other casual workers were affected the most by dramatically increasing price of rice. They were the ones who died in this famine. Okay. Nothing like Bengal famine has happened in India again. It is, however, disturbing to note that even today, famine-like conditions exist in many parts of the country, leading to starvation, death at times. Natural calamities and pandemics may also lead to food shortage. For example, COVID-19 pandemic and had an adverse impact upon the food security. Restriction on movement of a people and goods and services impacted economic activities. Therefore, food security is needed in a country to ensure food at all times, including calamities and pandemics. Who are food insecure? Although the large section of people suffer from food and nutrition insecurity in India, the worst affected groups are landless people with little or no land do depend upon traditional artisans, providers of traditional services, petty self-employed workers and destitutes including beggars. In the urban areas, the food insecure families are those whose working members are generally employed in ill-paid occupations and casual labor markets. These workers are largely engaged in seasonal activities and are paid very low wages that just ensures bare survival. So we'll see the story of Ramu. Ramu works as a casual laborer in agriculture in Raipur village. His eldest son Somu, who is 10 years old, also works as a pali to look after the cattle of a sarpanch of the village, Satpal Singh. Somu is employed for the whole year by the sarpanch and is paid a sum of ₹1,000 per this work. Ramu has 3 more sons and 2 daughters, but they are too young to work on the field. His wife Sunhari is also part-time, working as house cleaner for the livestock, removing and managing cow dung. She gets half-liter milk and some cooked food along with vegetables for her daily work. Besides, she also works in the field along with her husband in the busy season and supplements his earnings. Agriculture, being a seasonal activity, employs Ramu only during times of sowing, transplanting and harvesting. He remains unemployed for about 4 months during the period of plant consolidation and maturing in a year. He looks for work in other activities. Some times he get employment in brick laying or in construction activity in the village. By all his efforts, Ramu is able to earn enough either in cash or kind for him to buy essential for 2 square meals for his family. However, during the days when he unable to get some work, he and his family really face difficulties, and sometimes his family kids have to sleep without food. Milk and vegetables are not regular part of meals in his family. Ramu is food insecure during 4 months when he remained unemployed because of the seasonal nature of agricultural work. So this is the story of Ramu, how it affects. We can see one more, that is in rural. In urban you can see story of Ahmad. Ahmad is a rickshaw puller in Bangalore. He has shifted from Jumri Taleha along with his 3 brothers, 2 sisters and old parents. He stays in a jogging. The survival of all members of his family depends on his daily earnings from pulling rickshaw. However, he does not have a secured employment and his earning fluctuate every day. During some days, he gets enough earning for him to save some amount after buying all his day-to-day necessities. On other day, he barely earns enough to buy his daily necessities. However, fortunately, Ahmad has a yellow card, which is PDS card for below poverty line people. With this card, Ahmad gets sufficient quantity of wheat, rice, sugar and kerosene oil for his family use. He gets these essentials at half of the market price. He purchases his monthly stock during the particular day when the ration shop is open for below poverty people. In this way, Ahmad is able to eke out his survival with less than sufficient earnings for his big family where he is the only earning member. This in case of urban, where he is also casual worker but he is getting PDS support. Inability to the social composition along with the inability to buy food also plays a role in food insecurity. The SC, ST and some section of OBC lower caste among them who have either poor land base or very low land productivity are prone to food insecurity. The people affected by natural disasters who have to migrate to other areas in search of work are also among the most food insecure people. A high incidence of malnutrition prevails among women. This is a matter of serious concern as it puts even the unborn baby at a risk of malnutrition. A large proportion of pregnant and nursing mothers and children under the age of 5 years constitute an important segment of food insecure population, women and children below 5 years. According to the National Health and Family Survey 1998-99,
The number of such women and children is approximately 11 crore. The food insecure people are disproportionately large in some regions of countries such as economically backward states with high incidence of poverty, tribal and remote areas, regions more prone to natural disasters, etc. In fact, the states of Uttar Pradesh, eastern and southern eastern parts, Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, parts of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra account for largest number of food insecure people in the country. Hunger is another aspect indicating food insecurity. Hunger is not just an expression of poverty. It brings about poverty. The attainment of food insecurity therefore involves eliminating current hunger and reducing the risk of future hunger. Hunger as chronic and seasonal dimensions. Chronic hunger is a consequence of diet persistently inadequate in terms of quantity and or quality. Poor people suffer from chronic hunger. They suffer from chronic hunger because of their very low income and in turn inability to buy food even for survival. Seasonal hunger is related to cycles of food growing and harvesting. It is cycle of food growing and harvesting. This is prevalent in rural areas because of the seasonal nature of agricultural activity and in urban areas because of casual labors. Okay, for poor it is chronic. For seasonal like other rural and urban it is because of their casual work and seasonal hunger. Okay. Example, there is less work for casual construction laborers during the rainy season. This type of hunger exists when a person is unable to get work for entire year. Okay, the percentage of seasonal as well as chronic hunger has declined in India as shown in the above table. It is decreasing. Okay, chronic even seasonal. India is aiming at self-sufficiency in food grains since independence. After independence, Indian policy makers adopted all measures to achieve self-sufficiency in food grains. India adopted a new strategy in agriculture which resulted in green revolution, especially in production of wheat and rice. Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister of India, officially recorded the impressive strides of green revolution in agriculture by realizing a special stamp entitled Wheat Revolution in 1968. The success of wheat was later replicated in rice. The increase in food grains was however disproportionate. The highest rate of growth was achieved in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, which was 58 and 33 million tons in 2020-21. The total food grain production was 310 million tons in 2020-21 and it was changed to 315 in 2022. Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh recorded a significant production in field of wheat which was 36 and 18 million tons in 2020-21 respectively. West Bengal and UP on other hand recorded significant production of rice 17 and 16 million tons. So West Bengal and UP. So now we will see food security in India. Since the advent of Green Revolution in the early 1970s, the country has avoided famine even during adverse weather conditions. India has become self-sufficient in food grains during the last 30 years because of variety of crops grown all over the country. The availability of food grains even in adverse weather conditions or otherwise at the country level has further been ensured with a carefully designed food security system by government. This system has two components. One is buffer stock, other one is PDS, public distribution system. Okay, now we will see what is buffer stock and what is PDS. So first is buffer stock. Buffer stock is a stock of food grains, namely wheat and rice, procured by the government through the Food Corporation of India. Through what? Food Corporation of India, FCI, Food Corporation of India. Very important. So the Food Corporation of India purchases wheat and rice from the farmers in states where there is surplus production. The farmers are paid pre-announced price for their crops. This price is called as MSP, minimum support price, which is pre-announced. The MSP is declared by the government every year before the sowing season to provide incentives to farmers for raising the production of these crops. The purchased food grains are stored in the granaries. Do you know why this buffer stock is created by government? This is done to distribute food grains in the deficit areas and amongst the poorest strata of a society at a lower price level than the market price, also known as issue price. This also helps resolve the problem of shortage of food during the adverse weather condition and during the periods of calamity. Next we will see public distribution system. What is public distribution system? So one is buffer stock through Food Corporation of India. Now PDS. The food procured by the FCI is distributed through government regulated rations shops among the poorer section of the society. This is called as a public distribution system. Ration shops are now present in most localities, villages, towns and cities. There are about 5.5 lakh ration shops, okay, all over the country. 5.5 lakh ration shops, also known as fair price shops, keep stock of food grains, sugar and kerosene for cooking. These items are sold to people at a price lower than the market price. At a price lower than the market price, any family with a ration card can buy a stipulated amount of these items: 35 kg of grains, 5 liter of kerosene, 5 kg of sugar, etc. every month from nearby ration shops. There are 3 kinds of ration cards. Antyodaya cards for poorest of poor. Antyodaya card is for poorest of poor. BPL card for those below poverty line. APL card for remaining others. So the introduction of rationing in India dates back to 1940s against the backdrop of Bengal famine. The rationing system was revived in the wake of an acute food shortage during the 1960s prior to the Green Revolution. In wake of a high incidence of poverty level as reported by NSSO in the mid 1970s, 3 important food interventions programs were introduced: public distribution system for food grains, integrated child development services, and food for work. So what are the 3 things? Public distribution system, one is PDS, then ICDS, that is integrated child development services, third one is food for work, FFW, introduced in 1977-78. Over the years, several new programs have been launched and some have been restructured with a growing experience of administering the programs. At present, there are several poverty alleviation programs, mostly in rural areas, which have an explicit food component also, while some of the programs such as PDS, midday meals, etc. are exclusively food security programs. Most of the PAPs, that is poverty alleviation programs, PAPs, also enhance food security. Employment program greatly contribute to food security by increasing the income of a poor. So now we can see National Food Security Act 2013. This act provides for food and nutritional security life at affordable prices and enable people to live a life with dignity. Under this act, 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population have been categorized as eligible households for food security. 50% from urban, then 75% from rural. Current status of public the distribution system. Public distribution system is the most important step taken by the Government of India towards ensuring food security. In the beginning, the coverage of PDS was universal with no discrimination between poor and non-poor. Over years, the policy related to PDS has been revised to make it more efficient and targeted. In 1992, revamped public distribution system was introduced in 1,700 blocks in the country. The target was to provide the benefit of PDS to remote and backward areas, that is revamped PDS. From June 1997, in a renewed attempt, targeted public distribution system was introduced to adopt the principle of targeting the poor in all areas. It was for the first time that differential price policy was adopted for poor and non-poor. Okay. Further, in 2000, two special schemes were launched: Antyodaya Anna Yojana, Annapurna scheme, and special target groups of poorest of poor and indigent senior citizens respectively. So what is that? It is Antyodaya Anna Yojana and Annapurna scheme. So the functioning of these two schemes were linked with the existing network of a PDS. Some important features of PDS are summarized in table 4.3. We'll look into it. The PDS has proved to be the most effective instrument of government policy over the years in stabilizing prices and making food available to consumers at affordable prices. It has been instrumental in averting widespread hunger and famine by supplying food from surplus regions of country to the deficit ones. In addition, the prices have been under revision in favor of poor households in general. The system, including minimum support price and procurement, has contributed to an increase in food grain production and provided income security to farmers in certain regions. However, Food Corporation of India godowns are overflowing with grains, with some rotting away and some being eaten by rats. So differences in food grain stocks in central pool and its stocking norms. So we'll see about Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Antyodaya Anna Yojana was launched in the year 2000. Under this scheme, 1 crore of the poorest among BPL families covered under targeted public distribution PDS were identified. Poor families were identified by the respective state rural development department. They are identified by respective state rural development department through the below poverty line survey. So 25 kilogram of food grains were made available to each eligible family at a highly subsidized rate of 2 rupees per kg for wheat and 3 per kg for rice. This quantity has been enhanced from 25 to 35 kg with effect from April 2002. The scheme has been further expanded twice by additional 50 lakh BPL families in June 2003 and in August 2004. With this increase, 2 crore families have been covered under Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Subsidy is a payment that a government makes to producer to supplement the market price of a commodity. Subsidies can keep consumer prices low while maintaining higher income for domestic producer. Producer will get whatever they should get. Consumer will purchase for a lower value because government will pay on behalf of the consumer. In 2002, the stock of wheat and rice with central pole is 159 lakh million tons of wheat and 104 LMT of rice, which was much more than the minimum buffer norms. However, these remained consistently higher than the buffer norms. The situation improved with the distribution of food grains under different schemes launched by the government. There is a general consensus that high level of buffer stocks of food grains is very undesirable and can be wasteful. The shortage of massive food stocks has been responsible for high carrying cost, in addition to wastage and deterioration in grain quality. Freezing of MSP for few years should be considered seriously. The increased food grains procurement at enhanced MSP is the result of pressure exerted by leading food grain producer states such as Punjab, Haryana, and Andhra Pradesh. Moreover, as the procurement is concentrated in few prosperous regions, Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and to a lesser extent in West Bengal, and mainly of two crops, wheat and rice, increased in MSP has induced farmers, particularly in surplus state, to divert land from production of coarse grains, which is staple food of poor, to the production of rice and wheat. The intense utilization of water in the cultivation of rice has also led to environmental degradation and fall in the water level, threatening the sustainability of agricultural development in these states. The rising minimum support prices have raised the maintenance cost of procuring food grains by the government. Rising transportation and storage cost of Food Corporation of India are other contributing factors in this increase. As per NSSO report number 558, in rural India, the per person per month consumption of rice has declined from 6.38 kg in 2004-5 to 5.98 kg in 2011-12. In urban India, the per person per month consumption of rice too has declined from 4.71 kg in 2004-5 to 4.49 kg in 2011-12. Per capita consumption of PDS rice has doubled in rural India and increased by 66% in urban India since 2004 and 5. The per capita consumption of PDS wheat has doubled since 2004-5 in both rural and urban. Okay, so this has been increased. Wheat. PDS dealers are sometimes found restoring to malpractices like diverting grains, selling poor quality of grains at ration shops, irregular opening of a shops, etc. It is common to find that a ration shop regularly have unsold stock of poor quality grains left. This has proved to be big problem. When ration shops are unable to sell, a massive stock of food grains piles up with the Food Corporation of India. In recent years, there is another factor that has led to decline of PDS. Earlier, every family, poor and non-poor, had a ration card with a fixed quota of items such as rice, wheat, sugar, etc. These were sold at the same low price to every family. The three type of cards and range prices that you see today did not exist. A large number of families could buy food grains from the ration shops subject to fixed quota. This included low-income families whose income were marginally higher than the below poverty line families. Now with TPDS, what is that? Targeted public distribution system of three different prices. Any families above the poverty line gets very little discount at ration shop. The price for APL family is almost high as open market price. So there is little incentive for them to buy these items from the ration shops. Now we will see about role of cooperatives in food security. The cooperatives are also playing an important role in food security in India, especially in the southern and western parts of the country. The cooperative society set up shops to sell low-priced goods to poor people. For example, out of all fair-priced shops running in Tamil Nadu, around 94% are being run by cooperatives. In Tamil Nadu, 94%. In Delhi, Mother Dairy is making strides in provision of milk and vegetable to consumers at controlled rate decided by Government of Delhi. So what is that? Mother Dairy. Amul is another success story of a cooperative in milk. Amul. Milk products in Gujarat. Amul in Gujarat. it has brought about the white revolution in the country. So white revolution. These are few examples of many more cooperative running in different parts of a country, ensuring food security of different sections of society. Similarly, in Maharashtra Academy of Development Sciences has facilitated network of NGOs for setting up grain banks in different regions. ADS organizes training and capacity building program on food security for NGOs. Grain banks are now slowly taking shape in different parts of Maharashtra. ADS, that is Academy of Development Sciences, efforts to set up grain banks to facilitate replication through other NGOs and to influence government policy on food security are thus paying rich dividends. The ADS Grain Bank program is acknowledged as a successful and innovative food security intervention. So that's all about this chapter. We'll catch up tomorrow.